So another gobsmacking story to bring you from the Irish courts. This chap, Indian student, aged 26. This guy's aged 26, looks like he's had a pretty hard paper round from what I can see. The headline reads, "Child Snatch. Man who tried to abduct a child aged 5. Little boy, little Irish kid, 5 years of age, avoids jail and is given 2 weeks to leave Ireland." Visak Rajesh Leela, aged 26, with an address in South Dublin, pleaded guilty to the attempted abduction on September the 14th last year from an apartment block in Dublin. At least he's getting kicked out of Ireland. Although, spoiler alert, he can return again in 10 years if he wants to. It's not a permanent thing. And you'll hear the details of the case, and then you'll hear the sub story that this guy gives, how his life's wrecked, his life's ruined, he's really sorry about it and all that. It's what happens when you try and abduct other people's children. You don't deserve any leniency or an easy time of it, in my opinion. He claims he was drunk, claims he didn't know what he was doing. You know, how many of you out there have been drunk in the past and just felt the urge to abduct a 5-year-old child, tried to abduct a 5-year-old child? I'm guessing none of you. But that's just my opinion on it. Let's hear and see the details from the court.
Rajesh Leela arriving at court today to learn his fate. The 26-year-old student, who was originally from India, pleaded guilty to attempted child abduction following an incident at an apartment block in North Dublin in September 2024.
An incident, there's that I word again. That big parade in Dublin on Saturday, that was an incident too, according to some news sources. That was an incident. This guy's trying to abduct a 5-year-old child. That was an incident. The story that I put up earlier on, check it out. The Romanian who was living in Carrickmacross and was drunk, hadn't worked for 8 or 9 years, didn't speak English, going up and down the street with a knife, threatening people and terrorising. That was an incident too. So this is attempted child abduction can now also be filed under the term incident.
Court heard that Mr. Leela was attending an Indian celebration in the apartment and he had consumed 4 drinks, a whiskey and 3 shots of Jägermeister. Mr. Leela had come to Ireland 10 months earlier to complete.
This is part of the defence. He was drinking. And apparently he had a shot of whiskey and 3 shots of Jägermeister. And that was enough to make him lose his sentence and try and abduct a young boy from the same apartment complex as he was attending some type of ceremony.
A master's in marketing. As he was leaving the party, he met 2 children, a brother and sister whom he did not know. He attempted to abduct the 5-year-old boy, but the boy's sister managed to push Leela, causing him to fall and allowing the children to escape. Mr. Leela left the party, but he returned later after Gardaí were alerted. He made full admissions, and the court heard that he may have gotten mixed up with the identities of the children, believing that they were his niece and nephew.
Okay, this is another part of the defence. He got mixed up and he thought these 2 completely unconnected random children, little boy and a little girl, and thank God for that little girl, because she managed to shove this student and allow her and her little brother to escape. What would have happened if his little sister hadn't been there? But apparently it was a case of mistaken identity. Again, very easy to just mistake 2 random children for being members of your own family. But anyway, Here he is scuttling out of the court.
The court was told Mr. Leela was intoxicated and he did not remember the incident. He said it was 2 minutes of a mistake that had ruined his life. In sentencing, Judge Martin Nolan concluded that Mr. Leela was not a danger to children and that his level of culpability was at the low end.
Judge Nolan. After hearing an account of how an Indian man attempted to abduct a 5-year-old boy, random kid from an apartment complex, that he was no danger to children because, he was drunk and he was beside himself and it was a momentary lapse of reason. That's some defence.
He sentenced him to 3 years, but suspended that sentence in full under a number of conditions, including that he leave the country within the coming 2 weeks and that he not return here for a period of 10 years. Aisling na Costello, Virgin Media News.
So get out of Ireland, said the judge. I'm giving you a jail sentence, but I'm going to suspend it on the proviso that you leave. But you can come back again in 10 years. By that time, he'll be 36. So, that's the story. Suspended, sentence, no jail time, kicked out of Ireland, but with a caveat that he can return again after 10 years. Now, there's another piece of reporting in this. This is his side of things, how hard he's had his life since this happened, and he said it's wrecked him. Counsel explained that his parents live in Qatar. He has no siblings. He doesn't come from any means. However, he has a Bachelor of Commerce and a Master's in Marketing. He also lined up an MSc in Marketing, a Master's in Marketing, and he's devastated that he can't now pursue that in Ireland. Oh, that's too bad. That's what happens when you try and abduct another person's child. Counsel said he had spent 3 months in custody following that, and his mental health is in dire straits. Wonder how the child's mental health is. Wonder how his little sister's mental health is. Wonder how the child's parents' mental health is. But of course, the perpetrator's mental health is in dire straits. He's on his own house arrest, explaining Leela doesn't go out and spends his time in his bedroom. That's a safe space. Well, if he had spent his time in his bedroom instead of drinking whiskey and Jägermeister and grabbing other people's children, then he wouldn't have to be sitting in a safe place then, would he? He was bullied and assaulted in custody. That's heartbreaking. And threats have been made against his life. He's found this is a very tough challenge. He doesn't see much of a future. Counsel said the defendant had a plan to deal with a psychologist in Qatar. He's been struggling to eat ever since. Well, I tell you, it hasn't affected his mobility. You saw how he sprinted in and out of court, bounced up and down the steps, lack of food, and hasn't done his physicality any harm by the looks of it. His parents had to sell their ceremonial wedding garments to help him financially. He can't sleep with remorse and pain, he said. It's 2 minutes of a mistake that has ruined his life. Well, maybe if that kid's little sister hadn't been there, some other lives would have been ruined. We don't know. Like I said, thank God for that kid's little sister. Counsel said Leela offers his sincere apologies to the parents. He doesn't know if he will move on with his life, said counsel, but he hopes they will, speaking of the kid and the parents. Counsel said Leela has no family here. His whole life planned ahead of him in Ireland, which is now gone. Good. It's the last thing Ireland needs. However, don't forget he can come back in 10 years. He said if the court gives him the chance, he'll be on the plane tomorrow. Well, I can't see why they wouldn't. He fully accepts that his life in Ireland is over. Good. It's over for now. Why is it when you think there's a great result, or even some kind of result to give you some kind of celebration, they stick in the clause at the end, but he can come back again after 10 years? No jail time. for attempted child abduction of a 5-year-old boy? None. Zip. Nada. What do you think about that? Leave me your thoughts, comments and opinions below. I'm Rick Munn, No Risk, No Reward Media. Over and out.